Some aggrieved, unemployed bonded nurses and midwives say they have been left to do odd jobs like head porting, driving and night watchman duties to keep afloat. The nurses, numbering over 7,000, say they are frustrated over the government's failed promise to get them employed. They have served notice to picket at the Jubilee House on October 29 if the Health Ministry fails to ensure they are posted. President of the Coalition of Unemployed Bonded Nurses and Midwives, Daniel Obuo, has been speaking to my colleague Komlado.
But financial clearance to be posted to our various facilities which our services will be needed to work to serve Mother Ghana, of which we were trained for. Nothing but financial clearance. Until we are giving financial clearance, we wouldn't be leaving the facility. That's the Jubilee House on the 29th, coming 29th. That was voluntary program, and so we want permanent employment, which will wind down our bond agreement with the government, so that after 5 years we'll be able to, travel outside or do any other stuff or work on our own that if we so desire.
So how is the current situation, affecting your members? How are you keeping up?
Our situation is so challenging, so worrisome, that some nurses who are professionally trained have now turned to Kayayo. Some are security, and I say watchman. That's watchman. This is serious. As a professional trained nurse being turned to Kayayo before the person is able to survive for a daily meal, one or twice a day. This is very worrisome, and as we speak, some of us will have to be in our various homes, and then when meals are cooked for the entire family, and if you are fortunate, you get one meal a day, and this is so serious. That's the reason why we want the government to employ us.
Did you make efforts to speak to the ministry one last time before?
Yes, we have had numerous engagements. As a matter of fact, last week we went there as an official meeting with the Human Resource Department and the Director of Health Training Institutions, of which it was the usual assurances we have been having since as far as the year is concerned, that they are working on our financial clearance and that it will be coming as soon as possible, which we take it as the usual thing, because it's not the first promise they are giving. We have had numerous of such promises, which none of them has been fruitful.
Now, the claim by the bonded nurses is quite in sharp contrast to what Health Minister Kwaku Agyeman-Manu told my colleague Nana Aljima in September this year, when the nurses hit the streets in 6 regional capitals over the same matter.
As far back as March, we asked even those who attended private schools to come to register so that we can capture their data to know how many were still sitting at home. Some have sat at home for as far back as 2012, and we sympathize with their cause, right? So this year what we tried to do was to bring all of them on board, and we applied for financial clearance from Minister of Finance. So we have to hesitate a little bit to get our numbers right. That is what delayed the issuance of the financial clearance. And we have always been in touch, talking to them to exercise restraint and all that.
Meanwhile, Mr. Agyeman-Manu said the clearance from Finance Ministry is ready to absorb all unemployed nurses in 3 months' time.
Luckily, after pressure, we have got the financial clearance issued. And we start looking at how quickly we can put them on payroll. That can be accommodated for this year. So I think that by close of the year, we might have given the appointment letters, we might have posted them. What we don't want to do is to post them and they will go and stay there for 2 months without salary, and then we create salary adjust. We don't want to do that. Last year, all those that we posted, dead on, we pay them their salaries, and we want to do that the same year. So now that we've got a financial clearance, next few weeks we'll start doing their interviews and putting them into places for them to get some jobs.
Well, we reached out to the Health Minister, who tells us that they are meeting with the bonded nurses and that he would be available to comment on the matter sometime on Friday. In other news, the counter-terrorism unit of the Ghana Police Service has arrested 5 soldiers and 10 civilians for allegedly disrupting the launch of a festival at Yilokrobo in the Eastern region. The soldiers were arrested at Ogoma, a suburb of Somanya, where they had gone to support a faction which had already been restrained by the police from installing a rival chief. Regional Police Operations Commander, Deputy Superintendent Utumi Kate, said the civilians are currently in custody in Koforidua, while the soldiers have been released to the military high command. Correspondent Kofi Sian joins me with the very latest. So, Kofi, what more can you tell us about the arrest of these persons?
Okay, it's right. So let me point that the arrests were made in two separate incidents. It is not one incident, as I stated in the story earlier. The regional director of operations has clarified that. The first one had to do with the arrest of the 10 civilians, and it happened at Somenya, right in the heart of the Ilokobo district, where the traditional council, led by the paramount queen mother of the area, and some other chiefs had gathered to launch the Kloyosi Festival this year, when these 10 boys stormed the place and started disturbing the program. So the police were called in and they came to arrest these 10 people. And in the process, two other journalists, one a freelance journalist and the other a morning show host at Right FM, were also picked up for filming the arrest. So currently they are in police custody, while the two journalists are at the Asua Government Hospital receiving treatment. They were brutalized in the process. And the second arrest had to do with the installation of a rival chief at Gomez. That is where the soldiers, 5 of them, were arrested because they had come there to side with one faction against the other one. The police said they had restrained them from installing the chief, but they went ahead to offer protection to the other side. So they had to come in to make the arrest.
All right, thank you very much, Kofi, for bringing us that update there from Koforidua. Now, former press secretary of the PNDC, Captain retired George Infojo, is refuting claims that the military junta is responsible for the murder of 3 judges and an army major in 1982. This comes on the heels of calls from former Bar Association President Samuel Kudjeto that the military government supervised the killing of the 4 and not to apologize for it. Speaking after the airing of the Joining Special Assignment documentary on crimes that shook the nation titled Who Killed the Judges, Captain Infojo explained that former President Rawlings was extremely sad when he heard of the killing, hence could not have been part of its planning.
What has led us to this fine dispensation? You know, we are enjoying the freedom that our forefathers fought for. We are not fighting like other countries did. We brought, this country all along to this place. And I believe that that coup has ended all coups in Ghana.
Okay,
yes.
The 81.
Yes, it has ended all coups in Ghana. Because now, look at what you are doing. You are here, GTV is there, other stations are there. Who is going to come to your studio and say, the hypocrisy of so-and-so's government is so I'm seizing power? Who will look? It's only your limited audience that will see it. He will not go far. When we had GBC only, when we had only GBC, anybody who came to the studio won the day. You see, so we have been able to bring this country to this level and complete freedom. Everything you want, you have it. I'm sorry that people had to sacrifice their lives for this. It's not the best. It's not the best. I don't think any of us is a different human being. Any of us in the PNDC era or working around the PNDC era, we are people like everybody. We feel, we have feelings.
The claim that the PNDC actually had people who were insensitive to the happenings of the time, the excesses of the period. Is it true?
I'm telling you that by all means, in every situation, there will be excesses. Mm-hmm. But I don't necessarily have to ask you to go and do this.
Okay.
It is what you have in your mind. You see, oh, I have this power. Let me use it this way. That is yours. It's not mine. If we get you, we'll punish you. Do you think we didn't punish our own people? We punish them. Do you want us to announce to you that we have punished this person because he has done this? No.
Full of phrases for the military government, insisting it was the best to have ruled the nation. You're watching Joy News Prime. We're taking a break here on the bulletin. 3 persons sustained varying degrees of injuries when a section of the ceiling at the Accra Mall collapsed Thursday morning. The accident is said to have created a pandemonium that sent shoppers fleeing the mall building for safety. A section with a damaged ceiling has since been shut down, even though the rest of the mall is carrying on with business. As usual, Emmanuel Juvenu has more.
This was the scene when Joy News arrived at the Accra Mall Thursday afternoon with the game hub cordoned off. The 3 victims who were injured were transported to the hospital after being attended to at the mall clinic. The entire mall, the biggest in Africa and frequented by thousands on a daily basis, was evacuated after the incident. Personnel from the Ghana Police Service, the National Disaster Management Organization, and the mall's engineers then conducted initial assessment of the ceiling collapse. A member of the NADMO team, Richard Amoyate, said a decision on whether to shut down the entire mall will be informed by their initial assessment.
Upon initial assessment, we realized that it's an Accra Mall which has collapsed, but some portions of the ceiling of the electronic hub had collapsed. So we found out 3 persons were injured. They are Nigerians and they are undergoing treatment at the mall clinic. So that is the current situation. NADMO and the police, Ghana Police Service, are cordoning off the electronic hub whilst investigations to find out the cause of the collapse continues. It will depend on the engineering report from the investigations. If the report suggests that other parts of the structure would have been impacted upon, then we could order for a general assessment of the integrity of the entire roofing of the mall. NADMO will conduct an independent investigation.
Meanwhile, marketing manager of the Accra Mall, Dennis Asare, said the mall will continue to operate even as investigations continue into the incident.
Our team are working very hard with all public organizations to ensure a quick and smooth clear-up of the mall. We can confirm that parts of the mall are fully operational, such as the food court and the shops on the entrance 2 side of the mall. So that includes ShopRite, Vlisco, Woodin and its sisters and brothers. At the moment, the cause of the collapse is unknown, but more details shall follow as soon as we get the full reports as to why the ceiling did collapse. The mall should be fully operational by this evening.
NADMO says it will also conduct an independent investigation into the incident. Management of the mall says 7 shops have been affected.
Well, Richard Amoyate is with NADMO and he joins us on the line right now with the very latest. Good evening to you, Mr. Ayate, and thanks for making the time. What's the very latest you can share with us as far as your investigations is concerned?
Let me start. Good evening to your listeners. As we have said this afternoon, the Accra Mall did not collapse. It was the ceiling at the electronics hub of the facility that collapsed. The ceiling at the electronic hub of the facility that collapsed.
All right, that has been made pretty clear to us, but I'd want to know, because you were saying that you conduct further assessment of the damage to determine whether or not the entire mall will probably have to be shut down. Have you done that?
Yeah, we are not done with the investigation. The engineering technical investigations are ongoing to determine whether there's a need for a general audit of the ceiling facility of the premises. So that is what is ongoing right now. But as I speak to you now, the place, that is the electronic hub, which was affected, has been sealed off. So nobody has access to that place until the investigations are completed and then final reports put out.
The marketing manager who we just heard from a short while ago was indicating that they were considering making the mall fully operational by this evening. Is that something you have allowed to happen?
Yeah, that's what, like I said, the area that was affected has been sealed off. The area that was affected has been sealed off, so that part will not be accessible to anybody.
All right.
Yeah, and then we were working with the airport police to protect the needed security. Yeah, so that place is sealed off. Nobody will have access to that place until investigations are completed and the place is cleared safe before it will be opened to the general public.
How long do you foresee this investigation going on?
We want this investigation very, very, very quickly, we told them. So I'm sure by close of day tomorrow, we should make a headway. By close of day tomorrow, we should make a headway.
And this assessment you're talking about would involve the roof or the ceiling in the entire section of in the entire mall.
The ceiling of the electronic hub has collapsed. So we will the investigation is to determine the cause of the collapse and the impact, if any. And then it is the report that will determine whether the collapse has impacted on the other parts of the facility. You understand?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Now,
so that is what will inform the way forward.
What's the state of the 3 persons who were injured?
Oh, they are in good condition. According to the mall clinic that took charge of them, they are very, it was minor injuries. They're doing everything possible to ensure that nothing untoward happens because of their minor injuries.
All right, thank you very much. Richard Amu Yate is with the Geological Disaster Management Disaster Department of the National Disaster Management Organization. Moving on to other stories, a minority in Parliament is disputing claims by President Akufo-Addo that his administration has saved the country $7 billion after it renegotiated power deals signed by the erstwhile Mahama administration. Speaking at the Financial Times Africa Summit in London last week, the president said the savings came from the review of 24 power purchase agreements. Minority spokesperson on energy, Adams Mutawakilu, is however challenging government to make public details of the cancelled agreements that led to the savings.
We know that the sub-region, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Benin, Togo, will prefer to take power from Ghana. And you can only provide power to them where you have excess capacity. That means you have more than what you need, that then you can now supply. And that is why President Mahama invested heavily in the installed capacity and subsequent available capacity with the ESLA to provide liquidity to the area. So if President Nana Akufo-Addo now comes and say that, oh, they have renegotiated 8, rescheduled 8 and cancelled 11, the first question I want is, and what I want him to do, is make public the 11 cancelled power purchasing agreement and the 8 that has been rescheduled, so that the Ghanaians, including civil society organizations and the minority in parliament, will have the opportunity to scrutinize it. Because you can't be talking of savings without looking at the potential benefits. Because if we exploit this market and can put this power into use by exporting it, I believe that we'll earn more. So the $7 billion assessment was narrowly assessed, as if we need the power for only Ghana.
The president also indicated Ghanaians are enjoying the benefits of reduced tariffs recently announced by government. But Mr. Mutawakilu says the reduction is not being felt in the pockets of the average Ghanaians, rather causing mounting debt, which could grind the power producer or the power system to a halt.
The reduction that he's talking about is not having the real impact that we expected as Ghanaians. Because you shouldn't be talking of figures. You should be talking about the employment creation that this reduction had brought to us. In terms of non-households, such as tailors, barbers, and others, I know of 2 of my friends who are barbers who were doing business very well in 2016. Even with the supposed reduction, they are out of business because the economy is hard. Customers who used to come and shave for 15 cedis are now requesting that they should be given, they will pay 5 cedis. And as a result, they have to shut down. I thought the president would have carried out that assessment to see what was the impact. He would have realized that it hasn't come to help these non-residential consumers, but they are even worse off. So the issue of figure reduction is one, and the effect of it is another. So the president shouldn't boast too much about, oh, I've reduced, and therefore clap hands for me. If you have reduced tariffs and I'm out of business, how do I clap hands for you? So I want to tell him that that reduction is not reflecting on the Ghanaian people.
A 4-year-old girl in Kindergarten 2 has been left with severe bruises after a teacher subjected her to strong lashes for allowing her homework to be done for her. The girl's father, Emmanuel Ejekum, who was incensed by the marks on the daughter's skin, said when he went to the school to inquire what happened to the child, the unrepentant teacher told him to report the case to whoever he wishes to. Jojo Kobna spoke with a parent.
The Webbs left the 4-year-old, whose name I choose not to mention, in tears. Her tears dried, but marks of the Webbs remained hours after she was lashed. The marks could be seen on her long arms and back. The girl's father, Emmanuel Ejekum, is upset.
This is not the first time. This is not the first time.
How many times?
I think this has happened at 3-4 occasions. And today when I saw the girl, in fact, I wasn't happy at all. I wasn't happy. So I asked the girl who beat her, and she mentions Uncle Ralph, that's the teacher. And I went to the school, and the teacher exchanged words with me.
What did the teacher say?
He says because she doesn't do her homework, or the homework that she do wasn't her handwriting. That the brother do the homework for her. And she asked the little girl, the girl too says, my brother did it for me. And your brother did it for you, you have to beat the girl to this level. And she said, wherever I like to take her to, I have to. That's why I came here. In fact, I didn't control my temper. In fact, I didn't control it because it has been happening. Me, when it happens like that, my wife calls me, I should come and look at the girl. But in fact, you know women, the way they talk, I don't give her my. But today, I saw it myself. And I was like, hey, Teacher Nabu, say, can you imagine this? Can you imagine this?
He wants the Ghana Education Service to act soon.
They have to stop beating the children in school because this girl is just a little girl. 4 years, doesn't know anything. When you give her even my first copybook to write, they can't even write. You have to hold her hand. So it's a gradual process. And you cannot tell me that because the brother do the homework for her, you beat her up to this level. That teacher have to be changed from that classroom.
Meanwhile, authorities at New Page School in Kokomlemle have failed to state their side of the story. They, however, sent a text message to Mr. Ejekum to apologize to him. The Ghana Education Service has banned corporal punishment, but unfortunately, it still happens. Jojo Kobna, Joy News.
Well, elsewhere, the 17-year-old girl who is a victim of alleged sexual assault at Obuasi Senior High Technical School has revealed an official of the Ghana Education Service coached her to deny that the teacher forcibly had sex with her. 46-year-old Seth Amponsa is being investigated by the GES after he denied the act. Some aggrieved teachers of the school say amorous relationships between teachers and students of the school exposes the children to HIV/AIDS because a teacher of the school died of the disease 2 years ago. Manasseh Azoya-Winnie reports.
46-year-old Seth Amponsa has admitted the girl swept his office and studied there at night. He also admitted buying food from town for the girl and intervening when a senior seized her phone, but he denies sexually assaulting her. Some teachers of the school, however, say sexual relationship between teachers and students of the school has become a ritual. Joy News has cited a petition written by a group of teachers calling itself Concerned and Patriotic Teachers of Obuasi Senior High Technical School. The petition, which was written in July and addressed to the municipal chief executive, alleged that the school authorities wanted to shield Mr. Amponsa and called for the intervention of the MC.
I said I should also take it upon myself since it's my former school and I have the school at heart. So I went to the school one evening to interview about 3 students, and truly they confirmed what I heard, that something had happened and investigations are ongoing. So I came home, and then the following morning I had to inform the PTA chairman, who was not in the know. So he promised following up the case. Then the next person I talked to was the Municipal Director of Education, who was also surprisingly not in the know. And he also promised to follow up. And the last person I spoke with was the BNI officer of Obuasi, who also promised to follow up. So I later called the headmaster and he said yes, there is an allegation of that sort, and he set up a committee to investigate the matter. So later, when the 3 officers I earlier mentioned had gone to meet with the headmaster, they called me and said the headmaster was not happy about the fact that those people have been informed.
An 18-year-old girls prefect of Ewutu Winting Senior High School is challenging the concept of leadership that pertains in schools in the country at the moment. Hannah Ajemang says instead of electing a girls prefect who is subservient to the boys prefect, there must be one gender-neutral prefect, which position will be contested for by both sexes. She explains the current arrangement indoctrinates young girls to be inferior at a very young age and shapes their thinking through life into adulthood. Hannah came through the Joy News studios earlier today.
I'm a girls prefect of my school, and we have the boys prefect who automatically become the senior prefect or the school prefect, and automatically the chairman of the SRC. And when it happens that way, it makes us feel inferior unconsciously. For instance, the boys prefect or the school prefect can walk straight to the headmaster's office, go and say something, and it would be taken seriously by, say me, if I enter the headmaster's office, he will even tell me that go and come back. Okay, so when it happens that way, it creates that environment that we are always staying aback, and then guys are always automatically, we allow them to take the lead, and then it follow us through our lives to the extent that when we get to the workplace, we encourage men to go for the sensitive positions while we stay back.
So they vote for their positions for boys prefect and girls prefect.
Girls prefect. But automatically the boys prefect becomes the school overall school prefect and the chairman of the SRC.
And you don't want that?
I don't want it.
How do you want it to be done?
A portfolio should be created for school prefects, regardless of your gender. So if I'm a female and I contest for the school prefect and I win, automatically I becomes the school prefect, not the girls prefect. If a boy also wins, fine, he's the school prefect. So they shouldn't create girls prefect who is in charge of girls and boys prefect who is in charge of the whole school.
If, for instance, you were to contest with another boy for the position of school prefect, do you think that the boys are going to vote for you to become the school prefect?
Obviously not, except few who thinks that you can do the work, because the society has created that code that there's no way a guy will vote for me. If he would, maybe for personal reasons. And then girls too. You know, girls, we have that attitude when our fellow ladies are trying to climb higher, we tend to bring them down. And now we have even created a special name for this scenario, we call them PhD, pull her down. So you see, until we erase that notion from our minds that we can't go higher, girls, you are inferior, sit back. I think that this gender equality thing, we will talk and talk and talk about it, but still we wouldn't make any headway.
But then talking about the elections in the school, and you talking about admitting the fact that the boys are not likely to vote for you, and even the girls are not likely to vote for you. So isn't that where the problem is? So not so much about what the school has done in the past.
No, it is something that has been there from the scratch. So it's socialization. We came to meet it and we are trying to follow the trend. Okay, if I should contest with a boy, we all make the campaign. If I win, fine. If a guy win, fine. I don't think that is because of the population or personal issues.
How do you think this is going to change the gender conversation?
Okay, so I think that when this is able to be achieved, it will go a long way to balance the whole equation. Excuse me, let me use this term. You see, when we go for programs, the boys prefect, who automatically is a school prefect, are allowed to read keynote address, speeches, and all those things. But what about the girls prefect? We are allowed to read votes of thanks, 3 seconds votes of thanks, and this psychologically affects us, and it makes us feel that naturally the guys are superior over us. So when it happens that way, we go through the educational system. I'm sure it's the same that is happening in the tertiary institutions. We get there and we allow the boys to make the headway, and we sit back. In all aspects of our life, social, political, in all aspects of our life, this thing unconsciously, we don't know that that is what is causing. But from the scratch, it is creating that, it's shaping our mind that way. So it goes a long way, yes, it goes a long way to affect us. So we sit back and we fear to take up a higher position because the males are the dominant group and they will intimidate us and all those things. But if I'm able to take that position, rise from basic school, from SHS, and I get to the top, it wouldn't be difficult for me to take higher positions.
Kumasi Technical University is calling for international effort to prepare girls adequately for the world of work. Acting Vice Chancellor Professor Mike Agbesi observes high youth unemployment, especially among young women, limits society's aspiration for progress. He was speaking at an event to mark International Day of the Girl Child in Kumasi. Professor Agbesi says expanding existing learning opportunities for them is very critical. Kwesi Debra reports.
According to the 2015 Labour Force Survey report, over 1.2 million people of 15 years and above estimated to be unemployed. This represents a rate of 11.9%, out of which about 700,000 or 57.2% are females. Professor Agbesi says a radical decision on skill acquisition will ensure girls are not disadvantaged.
We must create opportunity for girls to acquire the relevant and employable skills to enable them contribute meaningfully to the national development agenda. It is therefore not surprising that the current government is embarking on a massive transformation or reform in the educational sector, with emphasis on technical and vocational education and training, TVET. The TVET second cycle institution and technical universities will be a vehicle for developing the technical skills for the youth, especially the girls, students and ladies.
The International Day of the Girl Child is set aside to create awareness of gender inequality female children face worldwide. This year's celebration was organized in collaboration with Women in Technology Education Development, WITED. Dr. Patricia Owusudako is Senior Lecturer of the Faculty of Applied Sciences and Technology. She says girl-child education should place emphasis on technology innovation.
Actually, empowering the girl child is key to whatever we have to do as WITED. So we found the sub-team, empowering the girl child in technology innovation, quite appropriate as a sub-team to prepare a skilled workforce, as has been chosen by the international organization.
Equip Hubs, a global network of innovation, is providing free training to empower participants to develop skills and positive attitude. It's been implemented in 6 countries, including Ghana. This will help beneficiaries to secure jobs and generate business ideas to start small business for enhanced livelihoods. Nadia Sullivan and Olivier Carignan-Boisejo are volunteers.
Here in Kumasi, there's so many opportunities and so many avenues that people can go in, and they can all be their own boss, they can be their own leader, and they can manage their own business.
Graduated, I think, 1 cohort. There's 1 more cohort ongoing, and we are starting 3 other cohorts just this week. So we are on the way to achieve our objectives in terms of number of participants in the training room.
Reporting for Joy News, Kwesi Deborah.
The minority in Parliament is accusing government of misusing government's scarce resources on 21 delegates sent to Geneva for an UNCTAD conference last year. The list of the Vice President's delegation has caused a stir as some countries like Nigeria sent only one delegate to the conference. Speaking on Top Story earlier, minority spokesperson on foreign affairs Sam Kujutu-Ablakwa says the huge numbers is a rape of scarce national resources that cannot be allowed to continue.
You've just been discussing, what has outraged the nation so far, the UNCTAD meeting. And I can tell you that we're looking very, very bad in the Committee of Nations. I mean, you go to a meeting with Canada, arrives with a delegation of one. They are sponsoring our Planting for Food and Jobs program. They sent only one person. We are begging the Chinese to take interest in our bauxite for $2 billion. They come with only five people. And remember that China, this is an UNCTAD meeting, the United Nations conference for trade and industry. China is the #1 country when it comes to merchandise trade, global merchandise trade. They are #1. Germany is #3. They all come with a very sizable delegation, not more than 5. Germany 1, Canada 1. And India 1, and then there's even an attempt to defend this. Do a content analysis of our list. Did the Vice President, who is an economist himself, did he have to send all these 4 economic advisors?
That's a question.
Well, Deputy Chief of Staff John Jinapor has justified the size of the delegation, except the numbers were fallacious.
I get into all the issues. First of all, to make a comparison of this list is quite unfair in my view, because a delegation led by, for instance, the Chinese delegation, as you alluded to, a delegation led by the Deputy Permanent Representative, Minister Consular Permanent Mission Geneva, will completely be different from a delegation led by the Vice President of Ghana. In fact, the Deputy Permanent Representative is not equivalent of a Deputy Minister to even start with. And so if you make a comparison of this delegation and that of the Vice President, you'll be very unfair, because if the Vice President of China were to travel, delegation would be completely different from the Deputy Permanent Representative. The question as to why the Vice President had to be at UNCTAD, he was invited as the Vice President of Ghana. I'm yet to find out whether the Chinese Vice President was invited.
Was he the only Vice President invited to
the UNCTAD? Check that out. I'm saying that the Vice President of Ghana was invited. And upon evaluation of the importance of trade for Ghana, within the context of multilateralism, UNCTAD and the rest, the Vice President chose to attend.
It's a technology introduced into the country to add to Ghana's tourism offerings. And over the past 2 weeks, several personalities in media and entertainment have taken turns to fly the hot air balloon. But did you know the science behind the floating of the hot air balloon? Komla Dom, who has been covering the Cowbell hot air balloon flights, has more.
The over 3,400 cubic meter sized balloon covers half the ground of a regular football field. And this particular one, made for Cowbell, could carry up to 4 individuals in the basket. But how is this huge envelope able to float and carry passengers up to 800 meters above sea level without fuel? It simply works on the Archimedes principle of flotation.
When a body is wholly or partially immersed in a fluid, it experiences an upthrust, and that upthrust is equal to the weight of the body.
After cold air is pumped into the balloon and filled up, the air is heated until the molecules expand, and as the principle states, the hot air in the balloon becomes less dense than the atmospheric air outside the balloon, so the balloon begins to float. Hot air balloonist Kun Odina explains.
The principle of hot air balloons is that hot air is lighter than the air outside the balloon. So if you heat the balloon in the envelope up to approximately 110 degrees Celsius, then it will lift. And every cubic meter of hot air can lift 250 grams. And this balloon has a size of 3,400 cubic meters, so it can lift approximately 900 kilograms off the ground, which is its own weight plus the weight of the people that are inside the basket.
All that's needed while airborne is a pilot and a gas cylinder to pump more gas to heat the air inside the balloon. And of course, occupants behold a picturesque landscape while up in the air.
And we also saw the sunrise, again, like nobody has ever seen it before. So we had some really great moments up there.
And the scene up there is such a picturesque, it's breathtakingly gorgeous.
It's amazing, it's surreal, it's astounding, it's awesome, it's breathtaking.
But when the pilot locates a playing field with decent enough access routes for the retrieved vehicles to be able to meet the team, he makes a landing. Science students in some selected senior high schools in Tema and Accra have been privileged to see it for the first time on their school fields as the Cowbell in the Sky project teams stop by their schools.
I wish all the things we learn in class would be as practical as this one, because it will help us gain more knowledge, and it's very nice. It's a nice experience too. So I think all the things we learn should be made practical.
Okay. I agree with what she said, because it's like most of us don't like the science. So maybe when it's made practical, we have a love and interest for it to go deeper into it.
For some of the school heads, more of these practical demonstrations of complex science principles could attract more students.
Trust me, these children will never forget the principle. Once they're in the classroom, they can always imagine this field and what they saw. And I must say that that is what we want science, how science should be taught. It must be full of practicality.
So when next you see a hot air balloon fly past in the sky, know that without fuel, it is flying on the principle of a Greek philosopher and inventor, Archimedes.
7,000 homes in the Greater Accra region are expected to have toilet facilities by 2022. The project is part of efforts by the Sanitation Ministry to improve access to water and sustainable sanitation in the country's capital. Speaking to Joy News on the sidelines of the launch of the Greater Accra Sustainable Sanitation and Livelihood Improvement Project, the coordinator noted the scheme, when completed, will be in line with the President's vision of making Accra the cleanest.
The project seeks to achieve safe and sustainable sanitation in the Greater Accra metropolitan area. In that area, we have, let me just say it in like brick and mortar infrastructure. But then besides that, you should have people to maintain the system. And so as the second objective, we will be having capacity building for the municipal assemblies and the metropolitan assemblies, as well as the ministry and all the other stakeholders that are involved in the project.
We understand there's also going to be skill development for people living in such areas. What does this skill seek to achieve? Is it to train them in the area of sanitation so that they come back to society and help us have a better sanitation environment?
Yeah, it is part of it, but it is not restricted to only that. If somebody has an idea in the assembly, and we go there, we realize that the idea is laudable, why can't we help the person? Sometimes we might not need thousands or millions of cedis to support. People might only need just few sums of money, to better their lives. And so why can't we do that? But of course, through proper procedures.
So after 4.5 years, what should we expect? What are we going to see differently from what we currently have in the situation?
All that we are trying to achieve is to protect our dignity. If I say so, what we are trying to say is that trying to reduce open defecation. We're trying to give people toilet facilities in their homes rather than running to the public ones in the night. If you have stomach problems in your house, now you are going to open your door and get out before you go and do that, at least to better the lives of the people through sanitation.
In terms of infrastructure, there's a means to put out toilet facilities for every home in the Greater Accra region.
That is what we are targeting, but we can. I wouldn't say that we are going to have for every home, because we are restricted by money. But then with this, we are targeting 7,000 homes for toilet facilities. Also, in some parts of the city, we have the sewers. And so we are planning of also those who are close to the sewers, we connect them to the sewers. And with the sewers, there is no need for you to have a septic tank or what we normally call the manhole. And you connect it to it, we have proper treatment, and then the treated water properly discharged into the environment.
Well, Sanitation Minister Cecilia Dapaah has revealed government has begun rolling out the sanitation brigade.
The brigade, they are on the ground. I believe they were given to the assemblies, some of them. It's a pilot project we are doing, and we hope to spread it around. So where you live, very soon we'll be coming there. I'll be coming there to inspect where you live. If you are found wanton, you know the punishment. You do communal labor and clean. I'm telling you that we are going to roll that out. Yeah, very soon, very, very soon. And you love it.